I was the golden boy at Apex Marketing Group in Chicago. 8 years of dedication had built me a perfect life with Amanda and our 2 kids in a beautiful suburban home. Every sacrifice seemed worth it when Jackson Harris, our CEO, called me into his office that Friday afternoon. What I did not know then was that his offer would give me everything I had ever dreamed of and take away what I could not afford to lose. If you are watching this, drop a comment telling me where you are from, hit subscribe, and stay with me as I share how my career nearly destroyed my family. My journey at Apex had been a steady climb through the corporate ranks. Starting as an account manager, I worked harder than anyone else, putting in 60-hour weeks and sacrificing weekends to impress the higher-ups. My dedication had earned me 3 promotions over 8 years, but the vice president position remained an elusive dream. Until that day. I remember every detail of that morning. The office was buzzing with rumors about Richard Tanner, our VP of marketing, abruptly leaving the company. Nobody knew why such a successful executive would depart without warning, but the gossip machine was working overtime. I was deep in spreadsheets when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Jackson Harris, CEO. My heart raced as I answered. "Cooper, got a minute? Come up to my office." Jackson said, his voice casual, yet commanding. The executive floor was a different world from our open-plan office space. Plush carpets, original artwork, and floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking Lake Michigan. Jackson greeted me with a firm handshake and that trademark smile that had charmed countless clients. "Cooper, I have been watching your work for years," he said, gesturing for me to sit in one of the leather chairs facing his desk. "Your campaign for the Wilson account was nothing short of brilliant. You saved that relationship when everyone else had given up. Thank you, sir. I just did what needed to be done." Jackson leaned forward, his expression serious. "That is exactly why I want you as our new vice president of marketing." The words hung in the air as my brain struggled to process them. Me, Vice President Richard, has decided to pursue other opportunities. Jackson continued, waving his hand dismissively. "His loss is your gain. We need someone with your drive and creativity." Before I could respond, he outlined the package: double my current salary, substantial stock options, a company car, and the corner office with views of both the lake and the Chicago skyline. I was speechless. "I need someone I can trust implicitly," Jackson added. "Someone who understands how we operate at Apex." I should have paid more attention to those words. The contract appeared in front of me, and I signed without reading the fine print. Looking back, that was my first mistake. Driving home that evening, I could barely contain my excitement. Amanda was in the kitchen when I arrived, helping our daughter Lily with homework while our son Ethan played with building blocks on the floor. "You are looking at the new vice president of Apex Marketing," I announced, grinning from ear to ear. Amanda rushed to embrace me, pride shining in her eyes. "Cooper, that is amazing. You have worked so hard for this." We opened a bottle of champagne after putting the kids to bed. As we toasted, Amanda squeezed my hand. "This will mean longer hours, will it not?" "Probably," I admitted. "But the money will change everything for us. We can finally renovate the house, take that trip to Europe, start college funds for the kids." She smiled, but I noticed it did not reach her eyes. "Just promise me you will not forget what really matters. We need you here too." I dismissed her concerns, too intoxicated by success to recognize her wisdom. "This is for all of us," I insisted. "Everything will be better now." My first week as VP was overwhelming but thrilling. My new office was twice the size of my old cubicle, with an assistant outside to handle calls and appointments. My calendar filled with executive meetings, and suddenly people who had barely acknowledged me in the hallways were seeking my approval and attention. It was during one of these meetings that I first met Sophia, Jackson's executive assistant. She was strikingly beautiful and impossibly efficient, seemingly anticipating Jackson's every need. What struck me as odd was how familiar she was with him touching his arm when speaking to him, finishing his sentences. I noticed other executives exchange knowing glances, but thought nothing of it then. Friday afternoon of my first week, I returned from lunch to find a small package on my desk. No note, no indication of who had left it. Inside was a USB drive with a simple label, "For the new VP." Curious, I slipped it into my pocket, deciding to check its contents at home where I could be more discreet. I had no idea that this small device would shatter everything I thought I knew about my dream job and the company I had dedicated my life to. That night, after Amanda and the kids were asleep, I sat in my home office staring at the USB drive. Something about it made me uneasy. Why the secrecy? Who had left it? I debated whether to even look at its contents, concerned it might contain something inappropriate, or even a virus that could compromise my computer. Curiosity won out. I connected the drive to an old laptop I rarely used just to be safe. The drive contained a single folder labeled Apex Financials. Inside were dozens of spreadsheets and PDF files with dates spanning the past 3 years. I opened the most recent one and began scanning the numbers. At first, the data looked normal enough, quarterly reports similar to those shared with the executive team. But as I dug deeper, inconsistencies began to emerge. Revenue projections that did not match reported earnings. Expense accounts with vague descriptions and suspicious patterns. Client billings for services never delivered. The more I examined, the clearer the picture became. Apex Marketing was systematically engaged in financial fraud. The documents showed how Jackson had created an elaborate scheme to inflate profits, divert funds through shell companies, and misrepresent the financial health of the business to shareholders and the board. The scope was staggering, potentially tens of millions of dollars. My stomach turned as I realized why I had been chosen for the VP role. My signature was now on financial reports that continued this fraud. I was being set up as either an accomplice or a potential fall guy. Sleep evaded me that night. By morning, I had made the decision to confront Jackson directly. I copied the files to a secure cloud storage account first, then headed to the office early, knowing Jackson would be there before most employees arrived. His assistant, Sophia, was not at her desk yet, so I knocked directly on his door. He looked up from his computer, surprised to see me. "Cooper, early bird gets the worm. What can I do for you?" I closed the door behind me and placed the USB drive on his desk. His expression shifted slightly, a subtle tightening around the eyes. "I found some concerning information," I said carefully. "Financial irregularities that I cannot make sense of." Jackson leaned back in his chair, studying me. After a long pause, he smiled. "I knew I made the right choice with you, Cooper. Sharp, detail-oriented. Nothing gets past you. So you do not deny that these reports show fraudulent activity?" He laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "Fraudulent is such a loaded term. Let us call it creative accounting. Every company at our level does it. You think our competitors are playing by different rules. This is illegal," I stated flatly. "We could all go to jail." Jackson stood and walked to the window. "This is why I chose you, Cooper. You understand business realities." Richard became squeamish, threatened to go to the board. I needed someone with more vision. He turned to face me, someone with more to lose. The threat was implicit but clear. I had signed documents. My fingerprints were on the fraud now, too. "Take the weekend to think about your future with Apex Jackson," said his tone friendly, but his eyes cold. "I believe you will make the right decision for yourself and your beautiful family." The mention of my family sent a chill through me. I left without another word, my mind racing. That weekend was the beginning of the rift between Amanda and me. I could not share my burden with her, could not explain why I was suddenly distant and distracted. She noticed, of course. "Cooper, what is going on? You have barely spoken 2 words since Friday. Is something wrong at work?" "Just adjusting to the new responsibilities." I lied. "The VP role is more demanding than I expected. Is that all? Because you seem scared." Her perceptiveness unnerved me. "Everything is fine," I snapped. "Just drop it, okay?" The hurt in her eyes was immediate, but I could not take back the words. That night, she slept in the guest room for the first time in our marriage. Over the next 2 weeks, my health began to deteriorate. Insomnia left me exhausted. My appetite vanished. Anxiety attacks struck without warning, leaving me sweating and short of breath in the middle of meetings. Meanwhile, Jackson increased the pressure. He began including me in meetings with the CFO, where clearly doctored numbers were presented as fact. Documents requiring my signature appeared on my desk daily, each one further implicating me in the fraud. Then Thomas entered the picture. A former Apex accountant who had left 6 months earlier, he approached me in the parking garage one evening. "Be careful, Cooper," he warned, looking nervously over his shoulder. "The same thing happened to Richard. They will make you the scapegoat when the time comes." Before I could ask more questions, he hurried away, leaving me even more paranoid. The final straw came when I discovered my signature on documents I had never seen before. Perfect forgeries, authorizing transactions I knew nothing about. I was being set up, and the noose was tightening. The discovery of my forged signature pushed me into action. I began gathering evidence, secretly making copies of incriminating documents and recording conversations when possible. I worked late into the night, careful to cover my tracks, knowing that if Jackson discovered what I was doing, the consequences would be severe. My caution proved warranted. One evening, while retrieving documents from a filing cabinet, I noticed something unusual about the smoke detector in the ceiling of my office. Upon closer inspection, I discovered a tiny camera lens built into the device. My office was under surveillance. How many of my actions had been observed? Had they seen me copying files? The next morning, Jackson summoned me to his office. Sophia smiled coldly as she ushered me in, then closed the door behind me. "Cooper, we need to have a frank discussion about loyalty," Jackson began without preamble. He swiveled his monitor toward me, showing footage of me photographing documents with my phone. "This is disappointing." My blood ran cold. "You are illegally recording me. Let us focus on your activities, not mine." His voice hardened. "You have a choice to make right now. Full commitment to our team and the way we do business, or I release evidence showing you as the architect of this entire financial structure. The board already knows Richard tried to blow the whistle. They will believe you are trying the same deflection tactic. That is absurd. Nobody would believe I orchestrated this. Your signature is on every critical document," Jackson reminded me. "And I have very convincing emails from your account detailing your plans." He smiled. "Technology is amazing, is it not? So easy to create digital evidence these days." I realized he had been planning this for months, creating a paper trail to frame me if necessary. "You have until tomorrow to decide," he concluded. "Remember, you have a beautiful family to think about." The mention of my family again, this time more explicit. I left his office shaking with rage and fear. That afternoon, I secured copies of my evidence in multiple locations, including sending encrypted files to my personal email account. If Jackson was going to destroy me, I would not go down alone. I was in the middle of this task when my phone rang. It was Amanda. "The kids and I are going to stay at my mother's for a while," she said, her voice tight with suppressed emotion. "What? Why? Because I do not know who you are anymore, Cooper. You have become a stranger. You do not talk to me. You barely look at the kids. Whatever is happening at that job has taken my husband away from me. Amanda, please." "I can explain." I pleaded, but realized I could not, without putting her at risk. "That is the problem. You keep saying that, but you never do." I heard her voice break. "Call me when you decide what matters to you." The line went dead. In that moment, clarity struck me with the force of a physical blow. What was I doing? I had achieved my dream job only to lose everything that actually mattered. My family was slipping away, and I was entangled in a criminal enterprise that threatened not only my freedom, but my very identity. The decision crystallized in my mind. I would go to the authorities, consequences be damned. I would not live another day compromising my integrity and risking my family's well-being. I never got the chance to tell Jackson my decision. The next morning, federal agents from the Securities and Exchange Commission arrived at Apex headquarters. Someone had tipped them off about financial irregularities, triggering a full investigation. The office erupted into chaos. Executives huddled in conference rooms with legal counsel. Staff were told to continue working normally while looking anything but normal. Fear permeated every interaction. Jackson called an emergency executive meeting. As we gathered in the boardroom, his usual confident demeanor was replaced by controlled panic. The SEC is on a fishing expedition, he assured us. They have no specific evidence of wrongdoing. Everyone stick to the official financial records, and we will weather this storm. His eyes met mine across the table, a silent warning. I nodded as if in agreement, but my mind was already made up. After the meeting, I would contact the SEC investigators and offer my cooperation. But Jackson had anticipated my move. As the meeting concluded and executives dispersed, 2 security guards appeared at my side. "Mr. Foster, we need you to come with us," one said firmly. They escorted me not to the exit but to the conference room, where 3 SEC agents waited. Jackson stood beside them, his face a mask of righteous indignation. "This is him," Jackson said. "Cooper Foster. He has been manipulating our financial reports for years. We only just discovered the extent of his deception." The senior agent stepped forward. "Mr. Foster, we have some questions about financial irregularities at Apex Marketing." "He has been acting alone," Jackson continued. "We have evidence that he created fake accounts to divert client funds. The board is shocked and appalled." I stood there, stunned by the speed with which Jackson had implemented his contingency plan. Before I could speak, the agents informed me that they had a warrant for my arrest. The humiliation of being handcuffed in front of my colleagues, people I had worked alongside for years, was excruciating. Whispers and stares followed me as I was led through the office to the elevator. Jackson watched from a distance, his expression unreadable. The processing at the federal building was a blur of fingerprints, photographs, and formal charges: financial fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy. The list seemed endless. By evening, I sat alone in a holding cell, contemplating the ruins of my life. My career was destroyed, my reputation shattered, my family gone. All because I had wanted success so badly that I had ignored the warning signs, dismissed my wife's concerns, and compromised my values one small step at a time. I was allowed one phone call. I tried Amanda, but got no answer. As I was being led back to the cell, a guard informed me I had a visitor. It was Amanda. My heart leaped at the sight of her, but the cold fury in her eyes quickly doused any hope. "I saw you on the news," she said, without preamble. "Financial fraud. Cooper, is that why you have been acting so strange? Were you stealing money?" "No, Amanda. I swear. I am being framed. Jackson, the CEO. He set this whole thing up." She looked at me with such profound disappointment that I felt physically ill. More excuses, more deflection. "I filed for separation today. My lawyer will contact you." She stood to leave, and I reached for her hand across the table. She pulled away. "Amanda, please. I need you to believe me. I do not know what to believe anymore. The father of my children is in jail for fraud. The man I married would never have put us in this position." As she walked away, I realized I had truly lost everything that mattered. That night in the cell marked the lowest point of my life, but also became the moment I decided to fight back. When my court-appointed attorney arrived the next morning, I told him everything, holding nothing back. "I have evidence," I explained. "Files I secured before my arrest. They show Jackson Harris orchestrated the entire fraud scheme." My attorney, Paul Mercer, was skeptical at first. "These allegations against the CEO of a major company are serious. We need concrete proof, not just your word against his." "I have the proof. Digital copies stored where Jackson cannot reach them." Paul leaned forward. "If what you are saying is true, cooperating with the authorities might reduce your charges. But there are risks. Harris sounds dangerous and well-connected." "I have nothing left to lose," I told him. "My reputation is destroyed. My wife has left me, and I am facing years in prison. The truth is all I have." Over the following days, working through Paul, I provided federal investigators with access to my evidence. The files painted a comprehensive picture of the fraud scheme and Jackson's role as its architect. Most crucially, I had emails Jackson thought were deleted, showing him instructing Richard Tanner, the previous VP, to falsify specific reports, followed by threats when Richard refused. As the investigation expanded, something unexpected happened. Thomas, the former accountant who had warned me, came forward with his own evidence. Then others followed, former employees who had been silenced through settlements or threats, but now saw an opportunity for justice. The case against Jackson and several other Apex executives built rapidly. I agreed to testify in exchange for reduced charges, facing the possibility of a year in prison rather than the decade I might have received otherwise. The weeks leading up to the trial were grueling. The media portrayed me as either a whistleblower or a willing accomplice trying to save himself, depending on the outlet. My face appeared in newspapers and on television. Former colleagues gave interviews calling me everything from a hero to a traitor. Through it all, Amanda maintained her distance, allowing me only brief, supervised visits with Lily and Ethan. The confusion and hurt in my children's eyes when they asked why I could not come home was a pain worse than anything the justice system could inflict. The trial itself lasted 3 weeks. Testifying against Jackson, meeting his cold stare across the courtroom, required every ounce of courage I possessed. His defense team tried to paint me as the mastermind, but the evidence was overwhelming. Email trails, financial records, and testimony from multiple former employees created an inescapable web of proof. The day Jackson was led away in handcuffs after the guilty verdict brought me no joy, only a grim sense of closure. My own sentencing followed a week later, 8 months, in a minimum security facility plus 2 years of probation. Given the alternatives, it was a victory of sorts. Before reporting to prison, I had one final chance to speak with Amanda in person. We met at a cafe neutral ground. I know it does not fix anything I told her, but I need you to know I never stole money or intentionally did anything illegal. My crime was looking the other way when I discovered what was happening, letting myself be intimidated into silence. She studied me for a long moment. I believe you, but that does not change the fact that you shut me out completely. You did not trust me enough to share what you were going through. I thought I was protecting you. That was not your decision to make. She sighed. I do not know if our marriage can recover from this, Cooper. Too much damage has been done. I understand. But I am asking for a chance when I get out to show you who I really am again. The man you married, not the person I became at Apex. She made no promises, but the fact that she did not immediately refuse gave me a sliver of hope to carry with me into my imprisonment. Those 8 months changed me profoundly. Without distractions, I was forced to confront who I had become and the choices that had led me there. I extensively attended counseling and reconnected with values I had compromised in pursuit of success. Upon my release, I faced the daunting task of rebuilding a life from scratch. No company would hire an executive with my history, regardless of the circumstances. Instead of seeking employment, I established a small consulting practice focusing on corporate ethics and compliance, sharing my experience as a cautionary tale. To my surprise, several business schools invited me to speak to their students about ethical leadership and the slippery slope of compromise. These talks evolved into a regular seminar series that provided both income and purpose. Slowly, painfully, I also began rebuilding my relationship with Amanda and our children. It started with dinner once a week, then helping with homework, attending soccer games and dance recitals. Trust returned incrementally, with consistent honesty and presence. 6 months after my release, Amanda agreed to family counseling. A year later, she allowed me to move back home on a trial basis. Our marriage would never be the same, but perhaps it could be something new, something stronger, forged through the fire of our ordeal. Today, 3 years after my arrest, I lead a different life. My consulting business focuses exclusively on helping companies implement ethical practices and whistleblower protections. I teach executives to recognize the warning signs I missed and the justifications I accepted. More importantly, I am present for my family in ways I never was during my corporate climb. I coach Ethan's baseball team. I never miss Lily's school performances. Amanda and I have rebuilt our partnership on a foundation of radical honesty and shared values. The lesson I learned through losing everything is that true success cannot be measured in titles or salary. Integrity, once compromised, is extraordinarily difficult to restore. The small decisions we make, when no one is watching, define us more than our public achievements. If you find yourself justifying actions that conflict with your values, remember my story. No corner office or stock option is worth the cost of looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing a stranger. Real success is being able to sleep at night knowing you have remained true to yourself and those who love you. Have you ever faced a choice between professional advancement and personal integrity? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life lessons from the corporate battlefield. And if you know someone struggling with similar pressures, share this video with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder about what truly matters. Thank you for listening to my journey from destruction to redemption. Remember, your character is your most valuable asset. Guard it accordingly.